Love them or hate them, the movies are a part of all of our lives. But do they show us what we need to see? Well, to dissect this topic, I decided to bring on the experts and collab with a few of my friends from their channel, Dormtalkin. They have a lot to say on this topic, and they're super smart, and as I was saying, they're very intelligent, and... Alright, we're starting.
Is Louisa stronger than Mr. Incredible?
Oh man, he
coming. What she was out here living in buildings.
They're not songs. They're not songs.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Scene in STEAM. I am so honored, excited, privileged to have you guys of Dormtalkin with me today. Hello, guys. How are you? Welcome to The Scene in STEAM.
What's up? How you doing? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so Jackson Terrio, Toby Archie, Messiah Stevens, Jalen Dupree, and David Reed. Welcome. Thank you guys for coming. And, the thing is, you guys are all STEM majors.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wild. So, in doing STEM and all that, how do you guys decide what your next episode is going to be?
Honestly, we just kind of look at what is going on in pop culture. We talk a lot about like Marvel and DC movies and stuff like that. Just stuff that, we would just talk about like on a daily and just record it, honestly.
Got you. And it's so interesting because I really never know what the next episode is going to be like. Like one episode you're talking about like superheroes. Next one you're talking about is BBQ go on spaghetti. Oh, yeah. The next one is on like racism. So it's pretty cool. It's really just, what I feel like guys would talk about in their dorm, which is kind of a cool inside look because I generally have no idea what guys talk about in their dorm. So.
We barely do either. Yeah.
No, honestly, no.
We're like, hey,
no, honestly, exactly. And sometimes we can knock out like 2 or 3 because we're just talking for 2 hours.
It's wild.
And it's like we can chop it up into bits.
So when you guys started, it was pretty cool because you started during quarantine. Our quarantine year, we were all sent home. And you guys kind of found a way to be social while social distancing. And in one of your episodes, I think when you were talking about like racism and, Black people in the media, I think, Messiah, was you that you said, we want equal footing, not handouts of being like in the media. So how well of a job do you think cinema has done in portraying Black people and minorities in STEAM, in STEM?
How well? I think, a lot of people are pessimistic about this. And typically, I try to be as optimistic as possible. So generally, I look at like the past and how we were portrayed as like the mammies and we had like blackface. That was just a thing that people could regularly do. But then you look at cinema now and we see things like that even being made fun of, like Atlanta. A lot of our favorite shows, they kind of poke fun at stuff that was before like very offensive, but to us only, but now everybody else is kind of seeing through our lens. So I personally think that it's getting much better in terms of like the social perception of like what I guess it means to be a minority, and people are much more empathic to what we find vulnerable or what we shouldn't talk about. But,
yeah. Got you. Yeah, and like for things like you said, people are kind of making satire out of like racism, right. Or like things like The Office, where it's a good kind of laugh, or just like this is racist. Yeah. Michael Scott does not know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But it's like you're kind of pulling attention to it by making it satire.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have like a thought on that?
I think more Black stories are just getting told in general. Not only in science or technology, but in all aspects of life. And I think the more Black stories we tell, the more complete picture we have of Black people in general. We see more Black people in movies and TV, but also on the news, in newspapers and stories and things like that. And so when we are able to just see more of Black people from different perspectives, we can see the different facets of Black people and stop being focused on in like one certain light or through one single lens.
Got you. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, you can't really, it's hard to be something that you don't see in cinema. And as like for STEM specifically, have you guys seen any change in that? Or like, do you think the media has increased anyway in kind of making things like that visible?
I think so. You have movies that are made like Hidden Figures, where it's like mathematicians, these women that helped, NASA. And you have movies like, Black Panther, which shows like the smartest character in the MCU is a black woman. And so you get to see the portrayal of black people elevated. These are smart people. We aren't a monolith. We aren't just, the comic relief. We aren't
Right.
just, the caricatures that, has been portrayed in the past. We are, we can be cowboys. We can be scientists. We can be newscasters. We can literally do anything because, we are people. We're humans.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think the MCU has kind of done a really good job of spearheading that. And the MCU has always been, very STEM. I feel like very tech focused. But this is where we come to a really dire question. Who created the best tech in the MCU? Tony, Shuri, or Peter Parker?
No, yeah, come on. Let's be honest. He's not on the same level.
Did he even create that? For real?
No.
Yeah, I think he did.
This Iron Spider suit is definitely Tony Stark.
It is.
I feel like the web shoes he kind of redefined.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And
You talking
and
about
the
little
second
Iron
suit
Boy
he made
Jr.?
Web
on the
shooters
plane.
in comparison to the Mark III Iron Man suit.
Come on.
The market that nanotechnology.
Exactly.
The real conversation is between Shuri and Tony. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna say that it depends on what you're talking about, because I was gonna say like, I feel like Black Panther, Wakanda, they got it down. In terms of technology, theirs is more advanced, but in terms of like who helps the world the most, well, Wakanda didn't even interfere in like regular affairs until very recently in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But then in terms of like, we talk about Tony Stark, the man. He's got all his iron suits. There was a whole movie about him making too many suits or him protecting the world a little bit too much. So I would say that in terms of protecting and like doing their job, well, I can't say that Shuri didn't do her job.
I disagree.
Like
I disagree
she
heavy.
did Wakanda.
She-
Let me know.
Shuri made the entire she made the train system, the drilling system. Like she literally monopolized vibranium and brought it to brought the technology even more than anything that anybody could fathom outside of Wakanda.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Shuri definitely takes the cake.
I mean, if we were to say that they were able to step out into America, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Show
it is.
technology.
Yeah, it's true.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
Like,
facts.
Tony's stuff was cute.
That's what I'm saying. She literally made something that's completely impenetrable.
Yeah.
Like
And let's be real. Like Tony, he doesn't have a great track record with sharing his technology with the rest of the world, right?
That's
Like,
true.
This is
That's
true.
true.
His
This is also
company
true.
is a weapons company, or it was for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I mean, they're making really good bombs, but I mean, beyond that, we see Wakanda, like everybody in the whole country is advanced.
everybody's
Yeah.
But like,
That is true. That's a very good
We're
point.
still using regular cell phones and stuff.
Right.
He hasn't elevated everybody the way that
Sharing
Shuri
the
has.
wealth. Yeah.
But I also want to think like you don't really know what would Tony Stark have done if he had more vibranium, you know?
Bro, he would have kept that joint to himself. He would have made an
He wouldn't.
impenetrable.
No,
Iron Man
but
suit.
first of all, his dad had an entire sheet of vibranium, right?
And
And
you
his dad, no, he made a shield, a single shield,
he made
a
a
frisbee
frisbee.
out of the
He
vibranium.
made a frisbee.
He
That's
gives it
the
to one
best
dude.
you could do.
Okay, but you see what that frisbee has taken.
Oh gosh.
You know?
Okay, what about all the previous Black Panthers? Because all their suits are made out of vibranium.
All right, but like, what if Tony Stark had that vibranium?
We just had a vibranium suit.
This
That's
is
about it.
exactly Jackson on all of our episodes.
What if?
He always
We
has
have
play
to have
devil
somebody that
advocate.
disagrees.
That's exactly why we
Yeah.
have him on the show.
Okay, well, I feel like we can all agree to disagree. But, both Wakanda and Tony Stark Industries, I feel like they both play their part. Because Tony kind of had to start, or like, I guess, the Starks had to start from what they had, their own, like what they created in their mind. And in Wakanda, their whole city is empowered on vibranium. So, you kind of have like a stepping stone with that. You have a bunch of people who are into tech with that. But I will say that Tony did create time travel, or at least find a way to
Very good point.
go
didn't
through
do that.
time and in.
I was still Hank
She didn't have to.
But-
Still low key Hank Pym though. It was like with the Pym particles. He
Oh.
wouldn't have been able to, you know. He just
No.
created a little vortex thing that. So it was kind of Hank Pym, but you know, we
It-
can give
it
it. We can give it some
Well, you
time.
have to ask the question: where would Tony Stark be if his father wasn't also a billionaire tech genius? You know.
Okay, but where would
he is,
Zuri
he
be?
is
Yeah,
also a
without
child
her.
of privilege.
But
But
where
he-
would Zuri be
I'm
without
saying,
me?
you can't say like, oh, you know, Sherry had some advantage that Tony didn't have.
I see what you're saying.
I see it. But on the note of time travel, you know, both the MCU and the DCU both explore time travel in different ways. And some of them I get lost. I'm just like, how did we get here?
It's very easy to get lost whenever you incorporate time travel. in
Yeah.
anything.
But on which world do you think it makes more sense? DC, MCU?
I do want to say I think DC is well versed in it.
Really?
MCU.
Marvel beats it.
All eyes on you, bro.
I feel the pressure.
Yeah, Marvel beats it, but
but I don't know. I just feel like DC does it in a nice. I don't want to say
Examples,
dramatic way.
please.
yeah,
Like Flashpoint.
yeah, just
I love-
resetting
I love
everything that they did
No,
wrong.
literally.
That-
Bro, if DC wants to do time travel, all they do is have Flash run into the
really
past.
fast.
No,
Every
and
single
I don't
time.
understand.
And
It's simple, you know.
No.
Simple is better.
That makes no sense.
But he doesn't use it every time. And so, like,
And
and
he, what does the Flash do? All he does is save his mom, and he doesn't even do that.
Okay, if your mama died and you had the power to
Chill.
save her, would you not save her?
but he doesn't get to.
Bro, he never
He
succeeds.
succeeds in some of them, and then what happens is that he has to go back and let her die again because the world would be too different. You know.
I'm disgusted at that take because Marvel did it like one time, right? And it's literally during what in Endgame, right? That was the only time they used time travel. If we talk about DC, they abuse time travel so much, and it's always the Flash. It's not like, oh, we have to like work to be like to get this time traveling thing going. Nah, it's like Flash gets pinned down, and then he's just like, let me just start this over. But even if we consider X-Men and Days of Future Past and how they kind of just rewrote the timeline with that, I'm still inclined to say that Marvel's better. I'm still inclined.
Yeah, I think for both of them, you have to have some like suspension of disbelief. You know,
Yeah.
you have to just accept like,
true.
yeah, there's some plot holes and things don't make sense here. You know, you just have
Absolutely.
to be like, in order to enjoy it, you just kind of have to go along with it. You know,
exactly.
I will say one thing that helps with the debate. In DC, there's massive repercussions to time travel. In Marvel, I mean, they kind of like tiptoe around, but it's like you can't create your future, the past, and then whatever the Hulk said. To where like if they go to the past, they don't affect the present or the future. So
Yeah.
like there's major repercussions in DC, but in Marvel they can do that whenever they want to.
Yeah. But I would say The Flash lost me when his daughter came.
Oh no.
We don't talk about the TV show.
No, we can. No, I think we absolutely
hold
can.
on. I think
This is
the
good
TV
content.
Show is pretty quality. It's some of the best quality DC television that we've
Explain,
seen.
please.
Right?
Are you
Up
talking
to a
about?
I'm
point.
so ready to jump down your throat, bro.
I'm saying, what if the Flash is not peak DC television, then what is? Maybe Arrow. But
Yeah.
I think that's.
But
you know,
that's just because there's no other contenders. Like you can't
Look, okay.
if it's all garbage and then there's one shinier piece of garbage. Like I get what you're saying.
there's Gotham and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, Gotham's probably
And
better.
Gotham was
I haven't
good.
seen
I'm
it, but
sorry.
Gotham was
Oh,
all right.
okay.
It had some.
We only come to see Batman as an adult.
It had on seasons and off seasons, but I think if you totaled up the on seasons, they outweigh the off seasons. So
See, when you have to do math.
When you have to do math, you're doing something wrong.
Exactly.
Who do you think would be the best scientist, or rather, the best mad scientist in the MCU? Okay, so we got Thanos, Wanda, or Loki.
I don't think it's Wanda because we saw what happened when Wanda goes crazy. She creates an entire city that bends to her whim just so that she can be with Vision.
no.
Like that's the craziest out of all of them. Thanos. Okay, we saw it.
Yeah, he's a very straightforward, practical guy. Pragmatic.
She literally made a city to make herself feel better. Like,
Yeah, she would be a mad scientist, but like
Unintentionally.
But
Yeah,
Thanos has a
isn't
mission.
that the purpose of mad science anyway is to indulge your own selfish desires. You know.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true.
But
I
then,
think the best mad scientist in the MCU is, we already have is Tony
Definitely
Stark.
Tony Stark.
yeah, that's true.
He's already a
He's
mad
a given.
scientist. Clearly, yeah.
I feel like with Thanos, he did like the proper scientific thing, right? Like he had a hypothesis, and then he had his materials, right? The stones, and he needed to get the materials, and he did a procedure to get the materials.
He did.
And then he came up with a conclusion. He got his results, and then he sat back and chilled.
He did.
You know, but
He succeeded.
so
A successful experiment.
right.
Yeah.
But Wanda, like she was kind of just doing her thing, and then she kind of went crazy, like you said.
Mhm.
Or I guess she was overcome with sadness.
And that's facts.
And
yes. In science,
And-
you must have a methodology.
Right.
And Wanda had zero. She didn't even know what she was doing half the time.
Does mad make sense?
Exactly.
What?
Does mad make sense?
But mad, even if they're mad, they still adhere to the scientific method. Yeah. You can't call it science if they're not doing science. You see what I'm saying? It may be bad science, but they're still doing science.
Okay, but so we're not saying Doctor Strange though? Wouldn't be a great mad scientist?
I mean, that's magic.
Okay, well then, so how are we saying Wanda? Isn't that kind of magic
You
too?
are absolutely right.
I mean, it's all magic, you know.
Yeah, right, at the end of the day.
We got the magic books. We got the magic.
Magic. And don't forget about Loki.
Yeah.
Loki isn't he
Very
like
devious.
the father of magic? Like he's that's
The king of mischief,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
king of mischief. What, father of magic? Same thing. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
Really? I don't know, actually.
Toby just wants to be
play
devil's
antagonist for no
advocate.
reason.
For no reason, it has no points.
It's kind of fun, Everyone's reacting to it all over the place.
Just
But
need
as
to
far
be
as mad
said.
scientist goes, I would have to say obviously Thanos because like how you say he had his methods. He did everything like
Yes, he was
supposed to
definitely very meticulous with it.
do.
He was looking for the stones for years, and he knew exactly what to do with.
Exactly.
He knew what to do with them.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what he wanted. He wanted to take out half of the population, which
Was his plan absolutely insane? Absolutely. That's
But he
what
won.
bad.
I mean,
was
maybe he
very
could have
insane.
doubled the resources, but hey, why do madmen do what madmen do?
Who knows?
Yeah, but but that wasn't in the hypothesis, you see.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You're
That-
right.
Can't switch up halfway through.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Double the resources, would it actually fit? Like, would there be enough space?
You need to double the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just make more everything.
Yeah, with the Infinity
He had so many
Gauntlet.
options, and
Yeah.
he really said
The thing is he wanted to eliminate confounding variables. That's what he was doing. And then, if you have too many variables,
Psych major.
I mean,
Sorry, bringing his
still.
Oh.
But like I said, Thanos. We're gonna vote.
I think we said Thanos.
Are we in?
Thanos.
Okay.
My arguments, I agree.
Yeah.
Was your argument for Wanda? Well, I will say that, the best experiments come from accidents. So she's a solid contender.
Yeah. You gotta wait to see what she does next.
Yeah.
What was the point of
So-
Wanda's experiment?
Happiness.
Make her feel better, right?
Boo.
Joy.
Boo.
So, on a more serious note, with superhero movies and these characters that we love and we love learning about and learning more about, how do we create good superheroes, good minority superheroes without feeding into stereotypes and without feeding into stereotypes?
That's a good question.
That is a very good question.
I think it definitely starts behind the camera.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. A diverse writing room, people that actually live the Black experience, not people that see it from the outside looking in. I think that the MCU and somewhat DC is doing a good job. They're including new characters like America Chavez, Kamala Khan, Monica Rambeau, people that are just good characters first. They don't have to be the Black characters. I'm a character
Right.
first, and then I'm Black and.
That's the biggest thing too. It's like seeing the race without seeing the race. Like understanding that people are people. Everybody can act how they want
Yeah.
to act. And because first they are a person, and then
Yeah, I'm not defined by this one characteristic. There's so much more.
Right.
Black people aren't a monolith. Muslim people aren't a monolith. Spanish people aren't a monolith. There's so much. There's so much that goes into it. I feel like.
I was gonna say is just keep being vocal. Like you said, it starts behind the camera. But I would also say it starts like socially, and it's already started. Is from what I can see, is that like we are already progressively moving towards more representation. Like that's a big thing in media anyway. We've got Encanto for like Disney. We've got Coco. We've got like so many more.
So
what was it? Raya and the Lost Dragon.
Soul is a good one.
Soul is ours, man.
Yeah, Soul.
It's African American experience.
Seeing Red that just came out.
Yeah. Seeing Red. And it's like, I think people like to harp on like nothing's changing. But I think if we were to compare 20 years ago versus now, I feel like there's much more black directors. Even though statistically we're much less, I feel like it's the incremental changes that matter. So when you have people that write and they understand the people that they're writing for, we're going to get a lot more honest narratives that we see on screen that we can resonate with a lot more. And clearly, the money's there because now we see when people are getting represented.
Yes.
Right.
A lot of people get supported. So it's like,
like Black Panther grossed like 1.3 billion.
Yeah. Shang-Chi.
Yeah, Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Hidden Figures had like 236 million worldwide. So I mean, there's definitely an audience for it.
Right.
People want to see themselves on screen. I think that's like the biggest thing. People want to see themselves represented, so they're going to support, themselves.
Yeah,
right.
And not as stereotypes. It was like watered down images of us. We want to see like exemplifications of ourselves on screen, so we can connect and we can interact with it. Because then we can talk about it like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I think it's funny also how like certain movies do it well when they show the stereotype, but then the character. You know what I mean? Like, they show how it would be portrayed and make a joke out of it. Kind of like we were talking before, using the satire, race satire. I like how they point it out, but then we can refocus back on like the character and how they are. Like it shows the difference.
Gotcha.
All the same.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely feel like it helps when, you have a large cast and you have a lot of minorities and you're showing like different personalities of different minorities, because, different personalities come in all shapes and sizes, different races, different colors. And like I know, like with Eternals that came out, it was super diverse.
Yeah.
People were actually kind of impressed about that. Like,
Yes, they were.
All the time.
and just then just the MCU, I feel like getting more diverse and varied in general. But yeah, I think you guys are right. I think we're headed in the right direction. There's definitely still a lot of work that needs to be done.
I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, but
Yeah.
I do feel like the direction that we're going, like with Messiah, he said, Turning Red, Encanto, all these movies that are just embracing everyone's culture. They have, it's a diverse writing team behind it. It's not just, one race being like, okay, I'm looking out here from the outside looking in. This is what I see, and this is how I'm going to depict it in this film. It's people that are actually like in the culture, in the characters. I'm a black person writing about a black person. I think that's very important.
But I also think that should be like a quality and like a standard.
Right.
Because you definitely said Eternals can't just throw in a bunch of diversity and try to make a movie.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Be black.
It doesn't work out, and obviously we saw it in that movie. They threw it. It was great that they did throw in all the diversity, but it was just
You still have to make a good script.
Yeah.
A good
exactly.
movie.
Exactly.
You have to make
People
a
want
good
to
movie
watch.
behind it.
Right.
Hot take, I thought Eternals was really good.
Same,
I mean, it
David.
had a
I
very
enjoyed
I
Eternals
actually
very
didn't mind
much.
It was kind
It
of
was
a
okay.
beautiful film.
It was mid.
It was so mid.
The cinematography was great,
Yeah,
though.
the effects were phenomenal.
I kind of liked. Okay, here's one thing: is I liked Eternals because even though we were getting like I don't even want to say forced diversity, because it was diversity, but it was kind of like a fresh perspective on diversity. Because generally, when we have characters, we have them very tied to whatever specific struggle they came from, but we just kind of had kind of our faces represented on stream. It wasn't like a not really a social commentary. Like you generally, what we have when we're black people, a lot of our media is slavery or the struggle or
True.
what we do in riots and stuff like
Very
that.
true.
Whereas like with Eternals, it was kind of doing what we expect the movie industry to do, which is entertain us. You know what I mean? And we got to see ourselves like through an entertainment lens instead of like it being connected to like all this cultural stuff.
Entertainment rather than pandering.
Exactly. It wasn't pandering. It wasn't forcing like this I don't know, whatever stereotype. Like, and that's the thing too, is that you don't have to. The character doesn't have to be like super black or super white or super Chinese or super like whatever race. It just has to be a character that's believable. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people that kind of operate where they have their racial identity, but they're still a person at the end of the day. And then that's what I liked about Eternals, is that all the races were portrayed as individuals instead of somebody who belongs to the social caste that they're from. So that's why I liked Eternals.
Yeah.
So I'm saying just create characters, and the character is black. You know, the
Yeah, it
character
just happens to be
is
black.
white. The character is Hispanic. The character is Asian, and you know you can do stuff with that, but you know start with the character. Or start with the stereotype. Yeah,
it wasn't just a black. I was gonna say one thing, but it wasn't just like a black character. It wasn't just a white character. It was like it's Faustus. It's like it's what was it? It's Athena. It's Faustus. It's
you start with that.
Yeah, you start with their names, and then
And it's like
And I kudos to them for doing that and making. I'm not gonna sit up here and just go back and forth about
Bash Eternals.
Go ahead and bash it, bro. No,
but I do think that they did a good job with the diversity. I just believe that when you do things with diversity and you put different people from different countries inside a movie, the movie has to be excellent. And I just don't think that it got like I used to not like Black Panther, and everybody knows that.
What?
But it was really rough. But I could understand why they made it so simple, and like why they made it this guy's just gonna come in and he's gonna just try to take over Wakanda, but he's gonna lose. Spoiler alerts, I'm sorry. But
if you hadn't seen it,
I just feel like Eternals, it was just so many aspects. It was just like they kept throwing in new things. It was just like it started to feel watered down. It was just that was just my opinion.
That's respect. That's not even about the racial point. We can trash the writing if you want to.
More about the writing than the diversity.
Right. Yeah.
He's just saying, make a good movie.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Good movie. Make a good movie with good characters.
Exactly.
With a good storyline. That's all we want.
Yeah.
It's very little to ask for.
You don't have to. You don't have to pander. We're gonna watch it.
Yeah. You have an audience.
I don't want to sound too much like a sheep, but
Marvel has me in a 3-year
chokehold.
3-year, however much money contract. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. But guys, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having us.
This is fun. This is really fun.
Absolutely. You know, I had to have the guys of Dormtalkin on here.
Yes, appreciate you. For real.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can follow Dormtalkin on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you guys so much for coming. It's great having you.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Anytime.
Thank you.